Most people hit their 50s, 60s, and beyond. Society hands them a script that often involves slowing down, taking it easy, and enjoying a more comfortable, predictable life. It's time when ambitions are supposed to quiet down. My guest today received that script and decided to write a completely new one. Pete, who is approaching 70 and a father, at 60 he decided to write his own script. When many are winding down, Peter decided to take up something extraordinary. He took up running and eventually trained for and completed his first marathon. Pete, it's a real pleasure to have you here. Welcome to Middle Age Runner.
Yeah.
Okay, Pete, I'd like to begin before your first marathon, before the training even started. Can you paint a picture of what life was like before you became a runner?
Well, I suppose I was just your typical couch potato, really. I didn't do any exercise at all. I was coming up to 60 years old, and I think the only exercise I'd ever done was I went to the gym for a few weeks in my 40s and just hated it. I found it really boring. And I just couldn't find a sport or the inclination to do a sport of any kind whatsoever. I wasn't unfit. I stopped smoking when I was 40, since I was in my 20s, I've not been a heavy drinker. So I didn't kind of live an unhealthy lifestyle, but I wasn't bothered about the food I ate really, and exercise to me was just something that I wasn't interested in.
So, what was the specific turning point when you decided to take up running? Was there a moment that you realized you needed to change or you needed a new challenge?
Well, as I've said, I was coming up to 60, and until that point, every decade I hit, I was able to kind of make excuses for it, like hitting 30, that's okay. Hitting 40, bit more serious. Hitting 50, oops, it's getting a little bit dangerous now. Hitting 60, I couldn't avoid the fact that I was getting on a bit and that I really did need to start doing something if I didn't want to go into a decline. So I used to walk my dog, and that got me interested in walking. I decided that I quite like walking, so I used to take the poor dog for massive long walks. And then there was a moment where I thought, I wonder if I could run with the dog. So there was a square near where I lived. It was probably, looking back, it was probably about 400 metres. But I tried getting around this square with the dog. And I can remember the first few times just getting to the end of one road. So that would have been about 100 metres. And then getting to the second side, that would have been 200 metres. And so I remember probably getting around the whole square and thinking, God, that was good, that was good. But I think if it had carried on as that, it would have died a death because it wasn't particularly inspiring. And I probably stopped. And then I was out with a friend after I'd turned 60, and I was talking to him about me and my thing with exercise, and he said, why don't you try parkrun? He says, it's really good. He says, you'll love it. So I made a kind of a mental note of it, thinking I'd never do it. And I think the first one I did was Bruton Park. And I remember doing it and coming away and not being sold on it. It was all right, but it didn't really blow me away. But then I met somebody at the end of Bruton that was a life changer, really. I'd love to see him again because it changed my life. He was wearing a King's Heath running shirt. And I thought, King's Heath, that's close to me. I wonder what they're like. So I went over and had a chat with him, and he told me all about them and that they meet on a Tuesday night. So I thought, all right, I'll have a go. I'll see what it's like. So I can remember the first time I went, we met at the park, King's Heath Park, and there was a few people there that looked like, most people were much, much younger than me, but there was a couple of people there. Kevin was there and a couple of others. So I thought, okay, it's not just one old git. There's a few others there as well. And so I did this run with them, and I think during that night, somebody told me about Cannon Hill Park Run. and it must have been the very next Saturday because I'm sure I did Bruton the weekend before Cannon Hill. So I went to Cannon Hill, turned up. First of all, it was just a bigger event. I just felt like I'd kind of joined a marathon. There were so many people there. And I was fortunate in that there was a fella, I didn't know him, but there was a fella there that was pacing someone. Mark, his name is, because I still see him. He didn't know me, and he didn't know that he was pacing me, but I just stuck to him and listened to him talking to this woman that he was pacing. And miraculously, and I don't know how, I got round. I don't think I walked, but I think because we were going very slowly, it wasn't too challenging for me, but I got round. And I can honestly say by the end of it, I was totally sold on it. I just thought this is the best thing since sliced bread. Everybody was supportive. The volunteers were great. The atmosphere was great. Getting your result through email afterwards was great. And I was just totally sold on it. I thought this is it. This is me. I'm a runner.
It's a huge internal commitment to make. How did your family react when you announced this plan, going from a comfortable routine to taking up running and decided to train for a marathon as well?
Oh yeah, that's
Must have been a
that was the kind of
surprise.
yeah, that was the kind of longer term decision, the marathon. I think then I doubt if they would have said this. They probably would have thought, "Ah, it's another fad. He's not going to carry on." My daughters were really supportive. They obviously wanted their dad, to be fit and healthy, but because I was an older runner, I think one of the advantages of being an older runner is quite often you don't have the responsibilities at home that you do when you're young and you've got a young family. So you haven't got to keep asking permission. Can I go out for a run tonight, please? You tend to have your own time and the freedom to do what you want. So there was never any friction. And as I say, I was supported, and they were probably pleased to see me out the house, to be honest.
So deciding to run is one thing, but actually lacing up your shoes, starting another challenge is entirely different. What were those early days of training? I know myself, when I started to run in the very early days, it was daunting getting out the house, thinking, am I spending too much money for different types of gear? So how did you take up all those challenges?
Well, I can just remember being so enthusiastic about it that leaving the house, even on cold, wet mornings, was never put me off. I just was really kind of into it. So the first few months were just learning. One of the things that was fortunate is I discovered that I'm not bad at running. I'm kind of no way am I an elite runner, but I realised that I can run, and that gave me the encouragement to keep going. So those first few months with King's Heath, we would do the 4 mile on a Tuesday and the 6 mile on a Saturday, and park run was a real kind of boost to your confidence because especially at the beginning, anybody that starts running at the beginning of a run of runs, you find yourself getting one PB after another PB, and so it really does kind of keep you really motivated. So that was really good. I think I then started to notice the other benefit of running, which was the social side of it. I started to meet people obviously at the club, but also people at Cannon Hill who were a bit younger than me, but not that much younger. They would have been in their mid 50s. I was kind of 60, 61. And we were all very similar in our attitude to life and whatever. And I realised after a while that the best part of park run is the cups of tea after. So we'd sit and have a cup of six, quite often 5 or 6 cups of tea in the cafe after the park run. And I thought, this is great. What a way to spend a Saturday. So you do your park run and then you just go and have a chat for a couple of hours, cups of tea. So that really did. That was a spur to just keep going, because the idea of not getting up on a Saturday morning and missing all of that would have just been a no-no. So that kept me going. And then, like all runners, I think, you immediately start setting yourself goals. So you'd listen to people at parkrun at the club saying they've signed up for this 10k or they've signed up for this half marathon, and I remember standing in awe listening to these people that have signed up for marathons and thinking, oh, if only, if only. But I started signing. I'd signed up for a few 10ks and thought, yeah, you can do it. And then, so that would have been 2018 when I joined the club. And I think in 2000 and late that year, I decided I've got to do a marathon. Everybody else is doing it, so I want one. So I signed up for Manchester the following year. So that would have been when I was, I don't know, 61 maybe, or 60 or 61, I can't remember. So yeah, so the early days were just fantastic. Just I was evangelical about running. I think I became really boring. I was telling everybody that they should be runners, and probably everybody thought, "Oh, Peter's coming! Quick, run!"
Okay, beyond just putting one foot in front of the other, what other lifestyle changes did this commitment demand? Surely it wasn't just about time spent on the pavement.
No, it wasn't. Changes really were kind of practical changes, and I suppose mental changes as well. Practical changes, I kind of found myself back to where I was in my 40s when I hated the gym, and everybody was telling me that as an older runner, I've got to I've got to do strength training, and to this day, I still just cannot take an interest in strength training. I've tried the gym, I've tried doing it at home, I've bought so many different plans that are gonna make it perfect for me, and none of them have worked. So one of the changes that I'm still struggling with, but I'm getting there slowly but surely, is strength training. As I say, if you're an older runner, you're losing it well, probably on a daily basis, but certainly over the course of a decade, apparently we lose 10% of our muscle strength. So really, you've got to do it just to stand still. It's not a question of becoming a bodybuilder. You need to do it to just stay where you are. So that was the first challenge that I had, and as I say, still, to, I'm getting better, but I'm still not there. And the other challenge is this, and the chimp that I have on my shoulder. 5k and 10k aren't so bad for me. When I get to the end of a 5k, or no, sorry, a park run. So when in my third mile at park run, the chimp starts. This is hurting, Peter. You've got to stop. You're going to kill yourself. Slow down. Have a little walk. These kind of things that you tell yourself. And on the 10k, it can probably be the last couple of miles that the chimp starts. And I think if you're an older runner, the stories that you've told yourself over the years that you can't do this, that you don't do that, they've become so embedded that it's really hard to overcome them. If you're younger, it's probably a bit easier. So the other challenges I've had over the past 8 years is that it's just trying to calm my chimp down and and tell it, look, we ain't going to die, we're going to get through this, but just calm down. And so I'm trying to find different ways of calming my chimp. So they're the two main things I think that I've had to deal with. But the other challenges are not challenges at all. Travelling has become a massive thing for me now. There's always a run every year that I do with people abroad. So it's an opportunity to visit places that I haven't been to before. So Verona, Florence, Barcelona, and others to come. So the only challenge there was the money, but all good stuff.
Feel like I'm looking at the mirror there, because all those challenges that you've mentioned there, I feel like it's you looking talking to myself there, because the strength training I don't like doing. I do it as I said, as a necessity, right? And also when, especially on longer runs, I'm not so bad on the 5k and 10k, but anything a little bit longer than that, right? In that middle section block, like if you think about the marathon, so that middle section between that, like the 15 to 21, 22 miles, that is where I'm thinking, why am I here? I could be in the pub having a beer. I could be at home watching the football. I could be here, a million other places rather than, why don't just, you're too old for this. Just get off and just go to the pub or something. So I feel like I'm like the same problems that we're facing together.
Yeah, it's not just us. I won't mention names, but I've spoken to somebody who is a really good runner. And I asked him what he felt like before parkrun on a Saturday morning, because I know I've just said how wonderful it is, etc., etc. But I still wake up on a Saturday morning feeling anxious and feeling a little bit sick, because I know I'm about to really work hard at something and I don't really want to. So I asked this person who does tremendously fast park runs, and I said to him, "How do you feel on a Saturday morning when you know you've got park run?" And he said, "Really sick." And I thought, well, if it can affect somebody like that, then it's I mustn't beat myself up about it. Just try to deal with it.
I think that anxiousness, I think but as you said, I think it's everybody and everybody's different goals. Like if you go back, say, 5 years and talk to the Amit that was there, he would have been happy where this Amit is now. But if you talk to this Amit now, he's not happy to where he is because he wants to be over here. So everybody's goal shifts and changes, and that anxiousness never goes, I don't think.
No, and
Um,
I think also if you're an older runner, because this is what we're dealing with, if you're an older runner and you're running with a club, it's very easy to compare yourself to people who are much younger than you.
yeah,
Like
it
I
is.
could be the grandparent of some of the people that are running at King's Heath. So and I think you really have to be conscious of that, because otherwise you can set yourself challenges that probably you'd be wise not to do.
Yeah.
So, for example, I've just done 2 marathons in 5 months, and that was not a good idea because the second one blew up. So I think you've got to stop comparing yourself to people who are 30, 40 years younger than you, and just be sensible, basically.
I always try and target myself to not the people that are super solid fast because I'm never going to get there, or definitely not now anyway, right? But not the people that are slow or the It's always that little bit faster than me, if you get what I'm trying to say. So it's a push to get to them, but it's almost an achievable push. I have to work hard to get to them, right? And that might be just me, but I always try and target myself against those people,
Yeah,
all
yeah.
right? And it's just that little bit, it gives me that extra push rather than get too comfortable as well.
Yeah. No, I think competition. If you're that kind of person, because I wouldn't want people to think if you're going to become a runner in older life, then you've got to be competing with people. I
Correct.
think that depends on you. For me,
Yeah.
I'll, I'm very I'm self competitive. I'm very competitive with myself, and maybe a lot of runners are the same. The idea of being competitive with other people, I don't think that's necessarily given. You might be a runner that just likes jogging around the streets, and that's
Correct.
fine.
Yeah.
But I think for those who are a little bit competitive, be competitive sensibly, really.
Yeah, I'm definitely competitive with myself. If I haven't achieved what I went out to achieve, I always start moping around the house and things like that. But so it's definitely that. Uh, Historically, I've always been competitive, and I think it's just another facet to me. And it sounds like you're in a similar position to
Yeah.
me. Okay, all right. And the decision that led you to the starting line to Manchester Marathon 2017. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, like I said, I think you get dragged along by other people's decisions, sometimes enthusiasm, and that was the case. It seems almost everybody that joins the club, or not everybody, that's not fair, but a lot of people who join the club start going up the ladder from 5k to 10k to halves to marathons, and I just found myself in that same place. Again, because I was running with the club, I was really lucky that a group that met on a Sunday really kind of took me under their wing, and they became my trainers basically on the Sunday. Karen, who used to work out runs for the Sunday to get me up to the distance that I needed. Sean was very supportive. Bought me. I used to run in some holiday shorts and work socks, black socks.
Oh dear.
And Sean, a friend of mine, decided that I couldn't prepare for a marathon like this. It just was embarrassing. So he recommended some shorts. I think he got me some socks and whatever. So I just a really supportive group that got me around and got me up to the distance that I needed. And I got there. To cut a long story short, when I got to Manchester, I was the only one there that I knew, and I'm really bad at getting my directions right. And that they'd spent so long preparing me for this marathon, I was getting really anxious that I was going to not get to the start line because I was going in the wrong direction. My sat nav was sending me in the wrong direction at Manchester. And I finally had to get a taxi to the start line that got me there just in time. And I was thinking, this is going to be so embarrassing if after all that time of training for me on a Sunday, I have to tell them that I didn't make the start line.
Oh dear.
It would have been embarrassing. But anyway, I got there. And I got there thanks to the camaraderie and friendship of the club runners.
Yes, I know the club. I know where you're coming from. Yeah, the club. I think we've got something special in the club. They do help you out and they point you in the right directions of whatever you want to achieve.
And another thing about runners, and I'm sure it's not just with running, I'm sure it's anybody that shares the same interests, is that age doesn't become an issue. You sit around a table, like I said at Park Run, I can sit around a table with people of all ages, and your age just doesn't come into it at all because you're talking about a shared interest. And so, yeah, I think that's another good reason for getting a tribe. Find your tribe at a club, wherever, and they'll help you through.
Yes, definitely. Stories like this are a powerful reminder that it's never too late. If you're feeling inspired, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel. And for more stories about defying expectations, make sure you subscribe. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Now let's get to the secret that really changed everything. Okay, fast forward today. You've just completed your fourth marathon, the London Marathon. So there you were, marathon day. Can you walk us through that experience? What was your plan? How did you handle it? The big moments, the highs and the lows.
Well, I've got a good friend, Ron, who has had a good word with me since London, and he's probably told me what I knew already. I think my planning beforehand wasn't good. Like I said, I'd done a marathon 5 months before, so I only really gave myself a month to recover from that, and then straight away being back into training again was not a good idea, I don't think. So I think although I felt okay, I'd done a 16, an 18, a 20-mile run beforehand. I don't think I'd done enough training because it was so squeezed. So although I turned up though and was looking forward to it and had an expectation, which is a really bad idea, but I had an expectation of doing about 4:20, 4:30, which is what I'd done in Florence last November. But as a runner will always tell you, as soon as you put one foot in front of the other at the beginning of a run, you know what it's going to be like. You can tell almost immediately whether this is going to be a good run or not. And within kind of half a mile of the London Marathon, I just thought I'm feeling really tired, and it didn't go away. By mile 4, I felt quite tired, and by mile 8, I felt as if I was kind of at mile 20. It was that my legs were like lead. So it was a case of getting around, basically. I'd fundraised for London, and that was a really good idea, I think. Apart from the fact that I raised some money for a really worthwhile cause, it was also something there that was telling me you can't even think about stopping this. You've just got to get to the end. So I got round. From about halfway, I decided, right, you've just got to enjoy the atmosphere because it was such a good
Oh yeah,
atmosphere there.
I
I thought at least don't go around feeling really fed up. Just enjoy it. So I tried to enjoy it, and I got round at 5:20 rather than the 4:20, 4:30 that I'd expected to get. So that was disappointing, and I think immediately after I I wasn't proud of the medal. I wasn't proud of the shirt. I just felt as if I hadn't really done a good job. But since then, and quite soon after, actually, by the Monday and the Tuesday, I realised it was a really useful lesson, a really useful lesson, because it isn't the last marathon I'm going to do. And I know now that the next time I do one, I've got to give myself time to prepare for it and not have too many expectations, but at least if I do expect things, to base it on sensible planning, not on the kind of planning that I did. So, in a nutshell, everybody's praising me, telling me it was great, and you did the London Marathon, and I finished, and I am pleased with it. But it wasn't as successful as I'd hoped.
I think you're really quite hard on yourself there, um, because if you knew at mile 4 that you're not running like you would normally run and you're not feeling it and everything, to successfully get to mile 26, I think that's an achievement in its own. Forget the time and all that, but I'm not saying I know, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of runners out there. If they could at mile 4, if they're struggling, they'll just can it on the head and just
Yeah.
say, So to get to the end, when you're talking about mile 4, you've got another 22 miles. Yeah, 22 2 miles, and then you're thinking, if I know sometimes I'm thinking that if at the beginning of a run and it's not feeling great, I think, oh my God, I've got that many miles, and I can't comprehend what that would feel like in a marathon. If you're feeling that bad at mile 4, how can I get to mile 26? So to get there, I think that's a great achievement on its own.
Yeah, no, and I am proud of myself because I say I've done 4 marathons. I've done them all in my 60s, which in itself I think is good. But yeah, and as I say, now I look back, it's a positive experience now because I've learnt from it, and I know that I won't make the same mistakes again.
Yeah, I obviously everybody's different and everybody's body's different. You can't compare one person to another. But I did something similar to you, but I think the times were a little bit different. So I did Chester in October, and then I went into London. But I think because I did it a little bit earlier than you, it gave me about 6 to 8 weeks to recover from Chester before I went into the London block. So I always, when I'm planning my marathons, I always say that I need 8 weeks between the training blocks. But as I said, everybody's different,
Yeah.
so that's not a categorically rule. What one thing that works for one may not work for another, and
No.
only you know your body of how long you need.
No, I've been told that you probably need 12 to 14 weeks to fully recover from a marathon
Oh, okay, yeah,
to
I have heard something that's similar on those
so
type of
yeah, so
things.
it's something to remember next time.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. I understand you are running for a cause, as you briefly mentioned in the last question, for your journey. How did that influence your motivation?
Well, it's to begin with. I think I was during the training period. I was more nervous about not hitting the target for the charity than I was about the marathon, because it's not something that I'd done to that extent before. So it was a bit nerve wracking, but people's generosity just astounded me. I was getting donations from right, left, and centre, and that kind of kindness and generosity makes you work harder. Basically, I know I've just said that I didn't work hard enough, but I'm talking about the time that I had available to train rather than how much I put into it. And the donations really were a spur to work hard and keep going. And obviously, as I've said, on the marathon day itself, you're conscious of the fact that people have spent money these days people are having to scratch together money to get by in life. Never mind pay me some money to run a marathon. So you keep that in mind when you're running, and that also kind of works as further encouragement. And I hit the target, and and you have to stop sometimes and think not in terms of I hit the target, but also that the money that you've raised is going to a really worthwhile needing cause. So I feel really pleased that I contributed to, even in a little way, I contributed to that. So yeah, I think if you have the option to do that, then go for it.
I think obviously I got a place this year in London, but historically I've always said I want to do this, I want to do that. But I think that as you said, the the target levels were always was daunting to me, all right? And hearing that you have achieved it, it's almost giving me a little bit. Maybe if I want to do something like that again, that I could do that. You know what I mean? So I'm happy that you've expressed that when you do set yourself targets, you can achieve these things.
Yeah, because I
Yeah,
was disadvantaged in a way in that I don't work now. Well, I'm self-employed. I work from
yeah,
home
yeah.
on my own, so I haven't got a kind of a workforce that I can pester with emails to raise money. So the fact that I was able to do that in that kind of situation, I think if you're working and you've got work colleagues as well as friends and relatives, it's definitely doable.
Okay. Beyond the incredible achievement of finishing and the medal around your neck, what has this entire journey given you? How has it changed your perception of aging and what's possible?
I think it's been the best gift that anybody could have given me, and for various reasons. I would imagine that getting older can be quite kind of depressing, really, if you have the wrong perspective. It's kind of, what else can I do? It's kind of, it's not the end, but you know, being a runner, I know somebody at Cannon Hill who's 85, 86 years old, and he still goes around every Saturday and he does park run, and then he sits in the cafe after and he does the number sorting, and he's doing more or less what I'm doing now, but he's 16, 17 years older. So that makes me think, that's me. I want to do that. There's another runner, Ron, and now he's just an incredibly fast runner, but he gets there because he puts the work in. He's incredibly motivated. He works hard. He keeps fit. So I think to myself, okay, well, if that's what I do, I'm not going to be as fast as him, but it's going to help slow the aging process and keep me fitter than I would be if I didn't. It's great to be able to set targets in life that I wouldn't have if I didn't run. I think quite often when you get older, you run out of ideas to set yourself challenges, and with running, there's one challenge after another that you can set yourself. It's made me look forward to the next overseas run somewhere. So travelling has become more of an interest. Friends, I've got kind of colleagues, friends now that I never had before I went running that I want to maintain that friendship with. So it really has just changed my life incredibly, and long may it be so, because I fully intend to carry on.
That's great. So, what now? Will you be hanging up your running shoes? I'm guessing not.
No, no, no.
Enjoying a well-deserved rest, or is there some new challenge that you're setting yourself?
Well, I have got a challenge, yes. I'm going to be 70 next year. And again, that's the start of yet another decade. And I know that hitting 70, I'm not going to be able to make any, I'm not going to be able to sweeten that pill. I'm going to think 70, right. So I've decided that it ain't that, it's not that old, Peter. Do another marathon. So I've decided next year I'm going to do another marathon. At the moment, I think it's probably going to be Berlin. It might be somewhere else, but likely Berlin. And that will be, so that's my next challenge. So I've got plenty in the meantime, lots of lovely halves and lots of lovely 10Ks to do. But this time I'll make sure that I prepare as well as possible. And if I do 5:20 next year, it won't be because I didn't kind of give myself a good chance. It'll just be because I'm 70 and I've got to kind of start being sensible.
I know speaking to you, and you're an inspiration to me, you know, and that I've just turned 50, and I always think if Pete can do it, I can do it. If Pete's running at those paces, I should be able to run at those paces. I remember when I first came to club, and I had probably similar reservations to you that oh, this is all for young people, young kids, 20, 30 year olds. And like, where's this man, you know, just turned 50? Is he going through a midlife crisis or something? Right. So yeah, so when I saw you and you and Stuart almost took me around on that first day, you having a nice chat to us. Right, it put my mind to say, look, it's not just about the young. You're never too old to start running. You're never too old to continue.
No,
Uh, you know,
definitely.
and definitely, I'm speaking for personal, but I'm 100% sure that there's other runners out there in our club that look to you as you know that if you can do it, they can do it. So keep on running, Pete.
Will do.
I'm sure you're going to be there. Some bigger challenges are going to be coming. Wishing you all the best for Berlin.
Thank
You
you.
know, whatever time you do get in Berlin, don't be upset with it because completing a marathon is no easy feat. You know, so thank you for coming on the channel.
Pleasure.
All right, and as I said, keep on running.
Cheers, Amit.
The journey of runners like Pete teaches us a powerful lesson. The path to an extraordinary goal isn't always about more effort and more pain. Sometimes it's about smarter, more patient approach. It's about challenging the idea that you just have to push through. The secret isn't a magic pill or a superhuman gene. It's giving your body what it needs to build a solid foundation, and your mind the permission to be patient. It proves that it is never too late to redefine what you are capable of. The finish line isn't just for the young and for the fast, it's for anyone with courage to start, the wisdom to find their own pace. If this story of defining expectations has inspired you, make sure you subscribe for more stories of incredible human achievement. We believe everyone has a marathon inside them, a goal that seems impossible until it's done. And we want to know, what's your marathon? What's the one goal you've been telling yourself it's too late to start? Let us know in the comments below.